Here's my father grave. He passed away now already, I think it's 6 years ago, after the couple of years fighting with the cancer, with the PTSD syndrome, and at the end he had a stroke, which was excluding the medicaments for the stroke. Whenever I come home, I don't know, should I come first here at the graveyard or should I go home, because more of my relatives are actually here, and especially most of them died in a war. Here's my uncle monument, the father's brother. He actually was killed immediately at the beginning of the war in the front line in a village close to Modrica. Half of them actually died just on the hill from the right side, because the front line was just there, and my house is on the left side. It's maybe airline, it's like 1,000 meters from the house. From this side, from the church and this cemetery, same from the other side where you see the mosque and also the cemetery beside the mosque. The same story can be told from that position, and somehow it's I don't know, we were happy that this borderline was not moving, but I think that the most tragical thing that those people actually died during that period. To talk about normality and to talk about what is the normal and what is not, what is today difficult or normal to do in art, when you passing the artillery guns which are just shooting over you, and you are not aware of that, or you just came to home, or almost every second day you need to stand because some funeral is passing. There is this tradition, when it's funeral, you don't walk, you need to stand where you are as the funeral don't pass. So this was a really, let's say, not normal time, and you were just a kid. I was going this 8 kilometers from the school to home. Front line was here. So each day when I go from home to school, this 8 kilometers, I didn't know, should I after school run as a refugee, because the front line can move, and if front line moves, actually I don't have a home. So living in this kind of unexpected moments also became normal. I was not stressed because of that. I need to admit, it was something which you accept as a possibility, and also that the military trucks pick you up to bring you to your home. I always think that there is something behind it. There is always some reason behind any artistic strategy you do or work you produce. And now I need to admit, in the last 5 years, the most of the people recognize my work by the performance, what I'm doing when I hang myself on the museums and the buildings. I started this performance first in Germany. I did it in Venice, in New York, in Istanbul, And then everybody asking why you do that. And this is my way to position yourself between two realities. The museum one, which is artificial reality, and the reality which is brutal one outside. And then later on I was thinking, is there anything why I did this performance? And because I was a quite problematic child, when my mother picked, something to beat me because I was bad, my way to prevent to being beaten by mother was to climb these stairs. I came here, I went out like this, and I said, if you beat me, I will put my hands out and I will fall. And of course, as any mother, she will never do that. So this was my way to prevent myself to being beaten by mother. But don't tell her that. And also talking about the normality in that period is something that in this route there was like because this road was the one of the few roads to supply the military, you know, directly on the front line. So the many tanks and the trucks of military on a daily basis was passing, you know, all the time. And you know, you think about this, you know, you go back with your backpack, you know, back to home, and just some military truck full of soldiers, you know, with the weapons, you know, open to shoot immediately, tell you, come on, jump in, you know, just that you don't walk 8 kilometers and you just jump into the military truck, happy that you will not walk 8 kilometers, and they just throw you out next to your home and they continue 1,000 meters forward into the front line, you know, and for you it's just normal daily basis, you know, walking to school day, and for them is about, you know, going in the front line and, you know, risking the life should you go back with the same truck, or they will bring you with a you know, medical vehicle. You know, like going this way, it's just around 1,000 meters from my home, so the school is actually backward from the lines. And today, because this front line in the war stayed as an entity line today, so from that side of the hill is Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and from this side is the Republic of Srpska entity. So actually it stayed like that. And I think also after the war, it's, you know, it still stayed separated somehow. I think that slowly, gradually, it should pass this generation which has this mental line. Actually, we talk about mental line. There is no, you know, there is no any wire at that position which separates it. You know, it's just stayed. I think in general, in that year and a half, as long as I was doing these hyperreal portraits and the figures on the gravestones, I don't know, I did hundreds of them in general, but for example, at this cemetery, there is around 20 of them. And I love to joke, you know, always artists are talking how I have a work in a MoMA collection. You know, my work is in Dia Bacon, you know, no, Tate Modern has one small piece of mine. I said, I have, I don't know, 100 pieces in a permanent collection in Bosnia villages, you know, in the mid-Bosnia. If you go on cemetery, you can find my work in a collection. You know, actually, you are now at the part of my exhibition, you know, it's a collective one here at the site directly. And what is very funny that when I started to do this thing, people in the village, they made a curse. And the curse was, I hope so, that Mladen will do your portrait. So, that means you are dead, or it will be. We will all be. So actually, here's the place where I started to, let's say, apply this kind of passion and love to work and to draw and to paint. And it was almost like accident, you know, because one of my neighbor who knew at that time doing the portraits of my grandfather, you know, like that they're doing some landscape and that time skilled to make a good drawing. He actually called me, come on, you should come to work in one stonemason workshop. And I said, what can I work? You know, like maybe physical work or something. No, you will not do physical work. You are artist, you will sit, you know, and and then actually, he actually brought me here and introduced me with the boss, owner of this workshop. And the boss told me that guy who is doing these hyperreal portraits, it's one guy who knows how to do that in the whole region. So he had a monopoly. So he was asking a lot of money from all of these stonemason factories which he was only working, and he didn't want to learn anyone how to do this. So actually, the boss invited me and told me, you should steal this knowledge how to do it. So the first 1 month, I was pretending that I'm here to cook coffees. I was moving the granite slabs, you know, and I was cleaning this space and watching from a side when he was doing, how he is doing that. And then I was bringing home small pieces of granite to exercise. The boss was giving me the portraits of the already done monuments, and maybe after the 2 weeks, when I was bringing to show him what I did, he told me, Mladen, here's the first monument you will do. And then actually I started to do this, and it was like this first portrait was really trauma for me, because not because of the person I was doing, but because he told me, if you do it well, it's 50 marks. If you make mistake, because you do with diamond needles on a granite, it costs 200 marks. You are in minus. That I again repolish everything, and to fix this. And I was shaking. I was doing that guy whole day. He was without teeth and one eye, and it was, So hold this idea of, let's say, monumentalization. I can call this whole era of post-war Bosnia, because the Bosnia became El Dorado for monuments after the war. So this kind of, let's say, culture of monumentalization became more and more present in society, and what actually resulted in a regular person life, that this kind of monumentalization and the culture of commemoration pushes life even on a second place, And it comes to the moment that life became a victim of the monument itself. And what actually deserve to be preserved as a reality, not fabricated, not, more beautiful with ornaments of the roses and like nice suits on it. I was started to thinking who deserve to have the, like large scale monument. And I decided that people, marginalized society people, we are in a village which is in mid-Bosnia that nobody cares about, the politicians, everybody. And, we go there where people, when they woke up in the morning, they need to think what to produce as a value today. Is it the food? Is it something around their home? What to do today to earn for a living? And, in many examples of that, I was thinking, how they do it. And in many of comings to visit my mother in a village, I was collecting the stories of what's going on here and what people they do, how they go occasionally to work in Austria in some hotel washing the dishes as long the husband is cheating the wife, at home here, how the corrupted police officer making cakes now for birthday parties. So I decided to do a monument, which is actually like a military plan from this village Osjećani, and all the strategies of those people related to the Swiss, Germany, Austria, everywhere are read in a legend by exact stories of people living here. So actually I wanted to make a monument to the people living here, the people who are not interested for any political party. Yes, they are interested to ignore them. They are interested. And I wanted to use a monument as a voice of reality, and to bring it the problem of the reality with this kind of aesthetics of monument, because people believe here in the granite. When they see the granite, they said it must be important if it's on granite, because it's a matter of life and death, And I want to make it more matter of life, less matter of death. I said, oh my God, what should I do now? And I think that all things we have a problem with, which is the militarism in this society, what should we do with that? Not only to, let's say, redefine them, but to completely turn them upside down. And so what I did as a first work when I came to the ex-military base, because I was learning 30 soldiers during my military service, I picked 30 helmets, I turned them upside down, I put the seed inside the helmet, and I put the seed of the flowers. So it was a symbolical way. The same I wanted to do with the monuments. The monuments are always identified with the dead. I wanted to identify it with life. So this behind me is the monument to the living people. I think that in all, let's say, the post-conflict societies after the wars, there are many challenges because we are talking about a state which is in a process of reconstruction, let's say peacemaking, reconciliation, rebuilding, renewal, and let's say all these new starts which are still affected from the conflict. So I think that particular purpose of the artist in that kind of societies as well is as in society of Bosnia and Herzegovina in this post-war period, it's the responsibility to use the art as a process of the resocialization of the society, as the process of healing as much as possible. And because we cannot pretend that nothing happened before, because the effects are still present in the society. So I think that in this case, the let's say the responsibility of art is to use art as a tool, not to observe art as a particular field within the context of culture and separated from reality. No, completely opposite. Art should be directly involved in reality, should directly intervene in reality, and should directly work as a tool to fix the gaps in a society. Those gaps can be the international conflicts, can be the marginalized group of people, can be the heavy past, which should be sublimed, which should be redefined. So I think there is the rule of art in post-conflict societies, not to deal with the question, but to redefine the question, to analytically approach the problem and try to solve it through the practice. The war never stopped, the only guns stopped. The war continued, but with another tools. I would say those tools are in a sphere of the politics, they are in a sphere of religion, they are in many other interests spheres, like maybe even such as economics and so on. And they are developing still fragmented in a state. So if we think and if we consider that war stopped by the Dayton Peace Agreement, we are immediately wrong at the start. So the consequence now, which are living as let's say the present state of the society, is showing that still the fragmentation is so hard that still we have such a strong boundaries between the, let's say, ethnic groups, that this was never overcome. And there is the moment where I think culture should work. I would not say that culture failed there. I think that should work on that. So because this aspect of separation is, let's say, still present, and it's supported by the leading political elites. And what were the seeds? The seeds were turbofolk, the seeds are kitsch, which was more and more present in the society. The seeds were particularization and the new nationalism arising. So, because this cultural elite didn't recognize this, it's the same with the earthquakes. You know, we are in Banja Luka. Banja Luka 50 years ago had a very strong earthquake. It was predicted. Only 15 victims from almost half of the city was completely down. Only 15 victims of the earthquake was, just because it predicted. Elite of 80s didn't predict earthquake of the 90s, and we deal with the consequence of that now. Moja pola ova, mogla još gore, a? Nema veze, jel? This kind of replica of multi-rocket launcher, it's actually a watering system which is aimed to water the parks, trees, greenery, grass. And why the context is now even more specific, because in a period of siege and bombing the Sarajevo and this museum as well, which you can see on the facade, now let's say me, who was from the other side, came again at this very place of this museum, bringing some, let's say, object similar to weapon, but to water the one of the smallest trees around the museum to grow better. So I think that the idea of reconciliation, it's not to reconciliate in your own territory. I think that reconciliation is asking also to go to the territory, you know, with which you should, for example, reconciliate something. So that's why I really love the situation we had here today, and the whole aspect about the lifting up this piece, and the people, everybody care about it, you know, everybody know that it's a, you know, good idea, everybody love it idea, you know, and there was a certain risk about. Next to us is just US Embassy with the highest security in Europe, you know, like, and all this together, you know, I think bring a lot of emotions into the whole process of installing the piece. If there will be no risk, I will consider that my idea failed completely. Usually, the most common ground and the most, let's say, conformist zone never move forward anything in a way of reconciliation. On you know, like, reconciliation means to cross the border of your own dignity space, and to, you know, to reconciliate with something, to spread your boundaries, you know, and borders, means to go into the another fields. So when you are in another fields, you are not common there, you don't feel safe there, you are in a zone of risk. And I always, you know, in many works I am in this zone of risk, and let's say that this is also the powerful image in a way of spectators reading the works. So also from that point of view, you know, you can recognize something is wrong there, and I need to find out what is wrong there. So even here now, everything looks wrong. I mean, so this is a trigger to involve spectator to research inside the work. I need this kind of trigger to catch spectators' attention, intellect, visual aspect. Artists need to be capable to make this kind of powerful situation to catch it. I think I will seduce them on the wrong way of thinking, that they will think maybe this is exponent of the museum brought upstairs, you know, maybe this is some replica, you know, doing nothing there, remaining the war, you know, whatever you will think, probably you will not think that it's a system to water the trees around the museum, you know. And the momentum, when you will find out that it's a watering system to water the tree and the grass, you will say, oh my God, this is a great idea. You know, this is a great idea, because we cannot say now we forget the militant past, but we can transform it into something useful and something humanistic. In many previous projects, I dealt with the reconciliation of the people, in a reconciliation of my own trauma, you know, with the other, let's say. And in this case, I was particularly interested how to reconciliate the present function of the space and the past function of the space. You know, not to force yourself to forget what that space was aimed for, and not to pretend that it's from this moment just about this. And actually this form and this sculpture, it's trying to merge those two things together in one. Reconciliation from my personal point of view, it's not about any, let's say, outside observation of me that I reconciliate myself. I think it's a personal thing. It's a personal thing in a way that you need to overcome your own frights, your own prejudice, and your own problems you have with the rest of the world around you. And I think that reconciliation is a very personal thing. And when you have one personal level, who aim to go over this reconciliation process, I think on this kind of exemplary subject, you can do a broader and wider reconciliation in a society. Now, as an artist, when someone asks you what is the normal, and also when I do the performance, and people say, how can you be hanged from the building? How can you smash some wall? How can you take the bull for the horns? Is this a risky more than that period in the war? I think it's not. Is this a risky more than being in a shelling city, like being under sniper fire? I think what can be risky for us? And if we don't show that risk in art, we are lying. How can I pretend to make a giga mega super produced sculpture when this is not something I live in society in? I think that artists should reflect these difficult circumstances, and the same as philosophy asking the question to redefine it. The same the art is asking, how can we actually not to face that trauma? How can we redefine the question of trauma? How can we reform the question of trauma? And there is the power of art that actually deal with this kind of thing, because the people trust to artists. And when they see that artists redefine the problem of the present or the past, they believe him. And that's the power of artists and responsibility of artists today, I think.